Well, let's unpack this some more with Reaney in the Polish capital, Warsaw. He's the editor of Lviv Today. Lee, welcome to the program. With this
Actually in Lviv.
African delegation now in Kiev, how successful do you think they will be? Because many have tried to broker some sort of peace deal since the war started in February last year.
Sure. Well, it depends on what you define as success. If they're here to come up with some sort of new peace plan, I highly doubt there will be any form of success in that. President Zelensky has said that without the Russian forces leaving every inch of Ukrainian land, there is just no basis for peace. And I don't think that any of these African leaders can put that on the table or can influence Russia to withdraw their forces. So as far as any sort of peace plan, I don't think that that's the primary purpose of their trip here. I think what they're actually looking to do is secure food through the grain deal that is always tenuous. It's a grain deal that was negotiated last year. Turkey and the United Nations figured out some sort of way to ease some sanctions on Russian fertilizers to allow Ukrainian grain to be shipped through the Black Sea. And that is only updated every 3-4 months, and it's always a big risk that it will not be updated again. And so I think that the African leaders are here right now to ensure that Ukrainian grain, Russian fertilizer actually get to the African nations to prevent any sort of starvation or famines there.
And that grain deal expiring on the 17th of July, both sides, Ukraine and Russia, will be wanting to extend it. And as you say, African leaders, they're trying to do the same. When it comes to certain African leaders, like South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, they have a long-standing relationship with Russia. South Africa says it's non-aligned, but still has very strong ties. Putin is meant to visit South Africa, and they've not yet said even if they will arrest him based on that ICC warrant. So with that type of influence, can they really be impartial on either side here, speaking to Ukraine's Zelensky and then going tomorrow to Moscow to speak to Putin?
Well, it depends on what their actions are. South Africa is walking a very fine line right now. They've also been accused of shipping weapons to Moscow. And while they deny it right now, there is an investigation underway by both the United States and South Africa, separate investigations. So, yeah, if it turns out that they're sending weapons, I think that will not help their cases in brokering peace or even an extension or amendments to the grain deal. But I think that South Africa is, and most of the African nations, they're looking at this as a transactional, similar to sort of India. India is getting very cheap Russian gas right now. And they've largely been allowed to do that by the Western allies, Ukraine's Western allies. And I think that Africa will be looking for something along those lines. I can imagine that Zelensky right now is speaking to the African leaders, in particular South African leader Ramaphosa, about just the history that country has in fighting for justice. Zelensky's a powerful orator. He's a very good communicator. I think he'd also be talking to the other African leaders who have suffered from colonialism about how this is a 21st century colonial war that Russia is fighting in Ukraine. And so I would think that he would be trying to explain that this is a war that Ukraine neither wanted nor started. And so as far as a peace deal goes, I don't see that happening, but I do think that this gives the Ukrainian government the opportunity to explain why they're fighting. He took the African leaders to Bucha today to show them the mass grave there and talk about what happened early in the war. And of course, the leaders, they were whisked down into a bomb shelter in a hotel. The motorcade had to pull off when all those cruise missiles came in at Kiev today. And that is highly unusual. To my knowledge, it's the first time that that's happened with global leaders in Kiev. I know that when Biden was here last month or a couple months ago, the Americans actually informed the Russians that he's in town so that nothing accidentally happens and World War III doesn't happen. I don't know if it's the same with the African leaders, but I can tell you, to my understanding, it is the first time that Russia's fired cruise missiles at Kiev when global leaders have been in the city.
Lee Reaney, really appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much, live there from Warsaw.